Love to
Welcome
hear it.
in to the week 2 live picks. We're going to be going over, our picks for every game this week. We're going to be doing it every Saturday morning right before college kickoff. We're going to try to get the show done in an hour. So let's get it kicked off right away. As always, if you don't know ball and want to know ball, be sure to subscribe. Leave a like. Let us know in the comments what game is your favorite trap game from the week. Dobbs, let's get it started here. New Orleans at Dallas. Dallas is a 6-point favorite. Who are you taking here?
All right. Now, Hunter, I'm going to be clear out the bat. I'm taking the Saints, but, there's a little bit of homerism here. I'm an honest guy. Like, after week one, they gave me some hope. I wanted to keep going, and I don't want to speak anything out of existence where I don't want to just, throw my boys to the bus. Again, I'm going to say, you know what? I got faith. I got faith. And here's my reasons, Hunter. I think that the motion that we're going to be throwing at the Cowboys, so the Saints were third highest in the league behind the Dolphins and Niners. So we're going to be throwing motion at them all the time, right? With that being said, you got two young linebackers in that core, right? In Overshone and Lafu. Now, I think, we throw a lot of motion at him, get him out of place. We can get that run game going. We can get that play action game going. Albeit, if the Saints win this game, it is going to be a close game. I don't think we're going to see anything close to what we saw in week one. But I do have faith in the Saints and that O-line, if they can play how they did again, like they did in week one, that you know what? The Saints can keep the momentum going and scrape together a 2-0 start to the season that nobody saw coming.
Yeah, I think so. Here's my thing. I can see the Saints winning this game. I took Dallas, and the reason I took Dallas is I think they looked electric week one, and now that Browns team did kind of look like a shell of itself, so I don't want to chalk it up to anything crazy like that. But with that being said, I do think that Dallas performed very well against Cleveland, whereas the Saints performed amazing against Carolina. So I just have a little bit more stock in Dallas repeating what they did on Sunday than I do the Saints. Not to say that it won't be a close game and not to say that the Saints can't win this game, but I do think, I'm not going to lie, I think the -6 line is a little disrespectful. I do think it'll probably come down to a field goal. But with that being said, I do think that Dallas will probably end up winning this game.
Oh, and I can't fault you for that. That's just good objective thinking, The Saints fan to me got a hold of me a little bit on this one.
I get it. Moving on to our next game, we have Tampa Bay at Detroit. Detroit is a 7.5-point favorite. I took Detroit. So did you. This is weird because this is one of those games to me where I feel like this line should not be 7.5. Like 7.5 is more than a touchdown. Like that's weird. And with the way Tampa Bay played them in the playoffs, I don't know why. I feel like people generally believe that last season for Tampa Bay was a fluke, but they showed it week one. Like it's not like they came out stumbling or anything. Like it's pretty much the same team. And yes, it's a new OC, but Baker still looks good. So for a 7.5-point favorite for the Lions, I mean, I personally feel like I might take the spread on that. I don't know if Tampa Bay is going to win. I don't think it's out of the question. But my concern with this game is more of the line than anything. I mean, I think it's going to be one of the more competitive games from the week.
No, yeah, Hunter, when I saw that line, first thing I'm thinking, to be honest, mad disrespectful, because everything you just said, 100% true. I think what I want to add is this. Where I understand where the odds makers are coming from is that they're looking at that Tampa D line versus that Detroit Lions O line, and they're going, okay, the Lions should want to come, pound the ball down their throat, take a lot of time off the clock, win that possession battle by a hefty margin. And from that perspective, yeah, can I see them by winning by 10 points? You know what? Most times they play this game. Yeah, I can because how dominant the Lions roster is. That's no disrespect, right, at all to the Bucks. However, I can completely see the Bucks sneaking this one out. This wasn't like the easiest choice in the world by any means of any of the games this week. And yeah, to put respect to the Bucks could show up and win this game. Now, do I think it's going to happen, especially considering that the Lions are at home? No. Which is exactly why we both took the Lions. But the bottom line is, do not sleep on the Buccaneers today or tomorrow, this whole year, any given Sunday for sure for the Bucks. And this line is disrespectful.
If you want to look at the PFF grades, the Lions graded top 15 in run block and pass block, where the Tampa Bay Bucks were like a minus, like a bottom 10 defense when it came to like defensive grade, pass pressure rate, and like um, no, not pressure rate, pass rush, and then even run defense. So I could see why, the lines makers might be looking at Tampa and saying, yeah, they're going to run all over them.
That is definitely what they're thinking, though. That is also very likely just as much as the Bucks stand a chance to, keep it a close game.
Moving into our next game, we have Indy at Green Bay. Indy is a 3-point favorite. Dobbs, quite an interesting game here. Who are you taking? I think the line is a little suspicious.
Yeah, it is definitely very suspicious. And here's my thing, right? We know that Jordan Love's questionable right now. So with that said, this is kind of one of those ones where as of right now, yeah, we have the Colts. But if Jordan Love is being announced that he's playing tomorrow, fade us on this one. Because if Jordan Love is playing, I am taking the Packers, right? But with the information I have now, assuming that they're not going to want to rush their franchise star back out there when it's not necessarily warranted, which I think is pretty understandable. That's how I would look at the situation. I'm going to say, so I'm going to take the Colts just from the standpoint of you lost a really tough one week one. It's going to be hard. You're sitting with that one, and you want to come and redeem yourselves, right? And against a really good Texans team. So you're saying, okay, we got the Packers without the starting quarterback, and we need to show up. It doesn't matter that Green Bay is at home. I think Anthony Richardson and the boys come in there, and if Malik Willis is starting, I think they can give him a pretty handed loss. Now, again, if Jordan Love starts, this is a whole different story. But with the information we have right now, we got to take what we have right now. I got to go Colts on this one here, Hunter.
Yeah, I have Colts as well. I think the big thing for me is the fact that, when you look at what Anthony Richardson was able to do versus Houston, who I think, I don't want to say they have a better secondary, but I think Houston has the more consistent front seven, let's say. Like, not to say that they're more talented. I just would rely on the Houston defense under DeMeco Ryans a little bit more than I would with the Green Bay defense. Now, Matt LaFleur hasn't really said Jordan Love's not going to play, which I think it's just kind of gamesmanship. If Jordan Love comes back, it just seems like it's kind of malpractice by the organization. But I think my issue with the line is the Colts are a good team, and like Malik Willis is one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. Like, where is this? Like, where are the Packers getting points? Like, are they expecting them to run all over them? Like, what is? I guess I'm a little confused on why it's only a field goal spread.
No, I'm with you on that 100% too. And to that point here, Hunter, look, let's not really act like the Packers were right, we're expecting Josh Jacobs to have necessarily the season everybody expected. And again, well, not me. I wasn't like these fantasy experts that were gassing the Josh Jacobs, explosive redemption season. I wasn't. So no disrespect or anything, but I just can be happy to say I wasn't part of those false claims. So I'm with you, Hunter. I don't necessarily understand what the odds makers are thinking either,
Okay.
other than the fact that, look,
So
Matt LaFleur and the Packers have damn good pedigree, and I guess we can't take that away from them.
I just pulled this up. The Packers were they were number 1 in EPA per rush on offense, and the Colts were bottom 9. They were the 9th worst team in EPA per rush on defense. So maybe they expect the Packers to just run it down their throat all game. I mean, I just struggle to see how Malik Willis can play like any type of competent football, and it's not because he's not talented enough. It's like we haven't seen a single good game from him in the NFL since coming out of Liberty.
No, respectfully, and he was one of the guys that I said he was one of the guys I wanted to really pan out. I really liked the upside, but he's never gotten close to hitting the upside, and it's a reality situation here, Hunter. We gotta take what we know. With that being said, we gotta go Colts.
Yeah, no bans. I really hope they don't rush Love back. I think it does put their season kind of in a bind, especially with their first couple opponents that he could miss. I think those might all be losses, but Green Bay isn't a pushover team. But let's move in to our next game. We have the New York Jets at Tennessee. The Jets open as a 3.5-point favorite. Who are you taking, Dobbs?
I am taking the Jets, but again, full transparency in this one. This is one of those ones where after what the sour taste in their mouth Titans had week 1, and the fact that they're saying, you know what, we saw the way that you can just run all over this Jets defense. You know what? The Titans stand a fair chance, and so I understand why the line is the way it is. But I am going to lean more that Aaron Rodgers is going to have the boys ready. That he's going to be telling them undoubtedly if we start the season 0-2, right? Not only the vibe's going to be down, the playoff chances are already down. We can't put ourselves in that hole, knowing that we're the much better roster and team overall. But again, full transparency. This should be a close game, and I don't think it's going to be a blowout. Or if you think there's going to be a blowout or something, I think that you're tweaking on that.
Jets were a bottom 8 defense in EPA per play in week 1, while the Titans were the second worst offense in EPA per play. So the immovable rock versus the very stoppable force, or the movable rock versus the stoppable force, it seems like this game. But you know what, Dobbs? Here is my issue and why I went with the Titans in this situation is I think the Titans played a good game last weekend. I really think Will Levis was the one to throw that game. And if Will Levis doesn't make those mistakes, the Bears don't win that game, regardless of the punt block, momentum shifted, everything like that. But Will Levis really threw that game away, and that defense was getting pressure. And we know that the Jets O-line on the interior isn't awful, but Tavondre Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons, that's one of the best interior defensive line combos in the league already. So my thing is, if they're going to blow up Aaron Rodgers, who's a 40-year-old quarterback coming off an Achilles, I think the Titans win this game. I really do. I think if they can establish the run game and then start opening up in the pass game and allow Levis to hit a bomb or two without him being stupid, the Titans could really win this game. After what I saw from the Jets week 1, it did not look good at all to me personally.
No. Hey, I'm right. I'm right there with you. Look, if the Titans are going to win, that's exactly how it's going to happen. And I just want to, quick victory lap here, Hunter. We were some of the OG Tavondre Sweat truthers.
Bro.
And you know what? We never faltered. We got a little worried. We said, all right, he's got to chill out with we can't see the legal stuff, but we never faltered. We knew Tavondre Sweat is a special prospect. And for those of you that had him dropping to 70th, 80th on your boards, we saw that. Suspect. But we did not falter here. We did not falter here at YDKB. Just remember that.
No bans. I mean, yeah, T-Sweat is looking deadly, and we'll get to the trap games that you're talking about. My thing is with him, it's like a man that big that moves that well. I understand the concerns about conditioning, but he doesn't have to be a 3-down player. And I mean, putting him next to Jeffrey Simmons, I think that was kind of a no-brainer. Like it's almost crazy that Rand Carthon didn't galaxy brain the thing. Like all the other GMs galaxy brained it. You know what I'm saying? Like Jerzon Newton out with the foot injury. Like I think the Commanders picked before the Titans in round 2, right? I could be wrong. I'm trying to mix up the picks, but it's like you had these Rook Aurora go, and then Tavondre Sweat was really easily the best big guy in the middle. Maybe you're not looking because I mean I would imagine that Tavondre Sweat's going to be a one technique like nose guard. You're not going to have him playing out there. So maybe teams don't want him for that, but he's just the type of player where I feel like you can't pass him up.
So teams had to learn the hard way, Hunter.
Let's move into our next game, one of the trap games no bans mentioned in the chat. We have the San Francisco 49ers at the Minnesota Vikings. San Francisco is a 4.5-point favorite. We both have San Francisco. Now with this being said, does the Sam Darnold legacy game come to fruition? Did the 49ers make a mistake rolling with Brock Purdy instead of... No, I'm kidding, obviously. But I do think the Niners will eventually start to feel the effects of not having Christian McCaffrey. When I do think that the 49ers really should win this game handedly because of the offense that the Vikings are going to trot out there. And I know what the Vikings offense did last week. Again, New York Giants, that's all I have to say. But San Francisco should go into Minnesota and handle this. And if they don't, I mean, it's not really a concern, but it's kind of like a game that you should really have in the bag.
No, absolutely. And I think here's what I'm going to add here, Hunter, because you really cover a lot of bases on this one. But what is crazy, Sam Darnold, as of it's week one, right? This is very subject to change, and it will throughout the course of the year, very likely. But number two graded PFF on or quarterback on PFF right now, with if I believe I checked yesterday, I think it was about a 89.6 or something along those lines. So he graded out really well in week one, right? Hitting the throws, making the reads, doing what he has to do. I think what I want to add is this. Okay. We know Talanoa Hufanga is doubtful, so you're likely to be missing still one of your stars on defense if you're the Niners. And then we know Christian McCaffrey's out, right? I mean, we know about Christian McCaffrey. I don't have to explain anything about that. And then on the Viking side, we got Jordan Addison out, and then we have Harrison Smith questionable, Brian O'Neill questionable, and Ed Ingram questionable. I'm going to say this, and this is really all I have to say on this. If Harrison Smith, Brian O'Neill, and Ed Ingram don't play, especially, I mean, like all three of them, this game is I'm all the way Mark Cuban. I'm all the way out. But if they can all three show up and they're all healthy for this game or healthy enough, the Vikings do. I mean, not realistically, the Vikings do stand a fair chance. This is absolutely one of the trap games of the week. No bans, absolutely. But I think that I'm still going to stick with the pedigree we know the Niners have. The reality of the situation is they are still the more talented team. And I do still think Brock Purdy is going to be able to outduel Sam Darnold at the end of the day. And funny enough, I said where Sam Darnold's number one, two graded quarterback, Brock Purdy is number one. So we'll take with that what you will. It's the matchup of the PFF 1 and 2s after week one. So it will be a fun watch. But I'm going to stick with that pedigree of the Niners.
I just realized I thought it was my mouse on my other monitor. I just had the mouse on the stream screen the whole time. Unfortunately, let's move into the next game. Seattle at New England. Seattle is a 3-point favorite. Dobbs, who you going with here?
I am going with Seattle here, Hunter. And again, like we really covered this before when we were talking about the Patriots and Seahawks and remind me what I don't remember exactly which video it was, but I know we did the whole spiel on this kind of game already because it pertained to one of the subjects we were talking about. But just to touch on it again real quick, my logic on it is this: look, I think that as well as the Patriots ran the ball last week, I think the Seahawks defense is going to have a little something for that. And not that Ramondre still can't have a good game and that they still can't rush the ball effectively. I just don't think it's going to be anywhere as effective as it was last week against that Bengals defense. I think the Seahawks corners are going to marry that coverage really well to the right and be able to lock these Patriots receivers up. And look, I do think it's going to be a close game. I think the Patriots are still going to play that complementary football and fantastic defense. Whereas, yeah, the Seahawks offense isn't really anything special right now either. And it's not going to be game's not going to be a barn burner or anything. But I think the Seahawks are going to edge them out. I think it'll be close. But I'm going to take Geno over Jacoby in this case. And that's how I'm going to rock with this one.
Yeah. So I'll say this. If New England wins this game, I think we damn near both have to, I don't know what we'd have to do, write a personal apology to Gerard Mayo. Because to start out the season 2-0 would be crazy. And I personally was not I wasn't too high on the Patriots all off season. Like I kind of I don't want to say talk shit, but I just did not have a high opinion of them. But what they did in that Cincy game, we know Cincy starts slow, and it's going to be interesting to see how Cincy plays against KC. We'll talk about that later. But I do think New England has a chance in this game, and I think the -3 line shows that. People know that the Patriots are going to play hard. So with that being said, I'm going Seattle. I think the offensive skill talent, like they can put up points, and I don't know how the Patriots, outside of running the ball, are going to put up points. And when you look at, I'm going to take a look right now at the EPA per rush on defense, because we know the Patriots like to win the game when they run the ball, and it looks like Seattle is dead center. So, right, like they're literally league average in stopping the run. So they shouldn't be able to gash them, but they should be able to get some yards on them. Obviously, the Seahawks D line looks good, and McDonald has that secondary playing well. So I think Seattle should easily take this. Not easily. Seattle should take this game. I wouldn't be surprised if New England ended up winning tight in a tight match, but with the way the weapons that they have on offense and kind of how they've revamped this defense, it should be Seattle's game all the way.
No, absolutely. And it should be a 2-0 start for Seattle. But like you said, Hunter, look, if the Patriots are out here and they shock us, I'm all for a written apology to Gerard Mayo. Yeah, I think he earned it.
Game of the week, the New York Giants versus the Washington Commanders. Washington is favorited -1.5, and we both have the Commanders. Shout out Jaden Daniels. I honestly feel like he might go for 200 on the ground. I think
Oh no, there's a chance. There's a chance.
that Giants D line is going to get in the backfield, and I feel like he's just about to scramble. So I feel like this is one of those games where the Giants defense just kind of throws their hands up, like Will Levis style, like on their head, like what the hell is going on? Just because it's like, it's also another thing of like the very movable object versus the stoppable force when it comes to like the air game and the secondary and wide receiver room. So this game is going to be a shit show in the most fun way possible.
No, absolutely. And look, here's what I'm going to add. I'm going to say, and this is really this is what I really need to talk about this, right? I mean, you're right. Look, you know, Dexter Lawrence is going to be in the backfield because Dexter Lawrence is on another level. But as for these other Giants D linemen, we need to address the situation, right? Brian Burns, 55.9 grade week 1, 58 out of 85 edges. And then, Kayvon Thibodeau, look, let me be clear. I have, I've been praising the man. He was one of my guys coming out of that class, Hunter. He used to have bend. He used to have a bag. Well, I don't know what's happened over the last couple of years. Excuse me. But this man's pass rush win rate is actually the lowest in the NFL right now. Can you believe that? It is the lowest in the NFL. And this is where I sound like I'm being a hater right now.
Under Tyree Wilson?
But this is where it's thinking. If you're in that chat, you're probably like, what is this guy in the Callaway hat on about? Why is he hating so hard? Well, I'm going to tell you why I'm hating so hard. If you guys didn't see Kayvon Thibodeau's post-game presser with the local media where, a gentleman was asking a nice question about how the reality situation is that this D-line is getting paid an egregious amount of money and they had the lowest pass rush win rate. And you know what his response was? Can someone ask a different question? Didn't even look him in his eyes. He just looked straight forward like a child. I don't want to talk about the fact that I'm playing like shit. Well, guess what, Kayvon? We're going to keep talking about the fact that you guys are playing like shit until you change it. And I think the reality situation is this, Hunter. The Commanders should come in there and give them a little uppercut to the mouth for all that garbage that they got going on over there. I'm not liking the culture in New York. I'm not liking it. You know what? I would love to see Jaden.
I don't like it either, Dobbs. Like, I don't like the way they carry themselves. And no, Bands, who's worse, Danny Dimes or the Commanders secondary? The answer is always Danny Dimes. It is always Danny Dimes. Emmanuel Forbes is having surgery. So it's just like, dude, like, both these teams are bad, but there's no, like, I see the light at the end of the tunnel for the Commanders. I see it. I understand what they're trying to do with this rebuild. The Giants, it is just mind-numbing year after year where it feels like you're not getting better. You traded Saquon Barkley basically for Malik Neighbors. Like, yes, in the long term, it's better for the team. But the reality is you needed as much offensive skill talent as you can get this offseason because you didn't upgrade the line a whole ton, and everyone knows you're just going to target Neighbors. Like, this is one of those years where it's just like, they have been living through the Daniel Jones saga, sorry, New York, for the last couple years. And it's like everybody knows that it's just like, this is a waste of a year. It is always a waste of the year when you're starting a quarterback like this.
Yep. It's unfortunate. And look, Giants fans, we don't want it to be this way. Let it be clear. We want the Giants to get back to being a fun team. But the reality is this. It hasn't been that way for a long time, besides the anomaly of a year. And look, we're not, to Hunter's point, I don't see light at the end of the tunnel for them. I do see it for the Commanders as well. So we got to go Commanders on this one. Jaden Daniels' beginning legacy game?
Maybe.
Maybe.
His Justin Fields 2.0 legacy game. Los Angeles Chargers versus the Carolina Panthers. The Chargers open up as a 5-point favorite. We both have the Chargers. I think Jim Harbaugh is going to destroy this Panthers team, and it's going to be like last week.
Oh, yeah, no, if we thought, this is what I'm going to say, Hunter. If we thought time of possession was bad last week, I think the Panthers might see the ball 4 times this game. Jim Harbaugh is just going to say, "What we don't need." This might be the first game in NFL history where you don't even have to throw the ball once. They just hand it off every single play because This Chargers O line is going to maul down this Panthers D
Yep.
line, especially without Derek Brown, and that is the end of this story. Like, yeah, there'll be some play action mixed in here and there, but they are going to throw their new 320 whatever pound fullback in that game behind Jake or in front of J.K. Dobbins and just maul down this Panthers D line and these linebackers and these safeties, and that is the end of the story with this game. Panthers fans, you understand it's not from a place of hate; it is from a place of objectivity. This team looks like they have no fight in them already. They lost their best player, who is one of the actual like best players in the league. Derek Brown is the anomaly of this team. You lost the anomaly of this team. I mean, this is one of those games where it's almost like, what is there to say? I mean, the Chargers are winning every single matchup on the field. It's unfortunate for the Panthers. It is what it is. The Panthers are on their way to the first pick.
Dobbs, J.K. Dobbins over under 200 rushing yards.
I'm gonna say I think under because I do think they're gonna try to keep JK fresh. Where I think they're gonna be. I think they start mixing in backs a little more. I think they're gonna. We understand JK's history, but I'll say this: over 100. Sign me up and throw it on my parlay, Hunter.
Lock. Yeah, man. I don't really know. I mean, I saw someone put it on Twitter, and I'm sorry, I'm forgetting who it was, but they said like Joe Alt could be Rookie of the Year, and like with the way he shut down Max Crosby, if he does that all year, like I don't think people are gonna be after this game like, did Jadeveon Clowney play? Like, did he play in this game? Like, Joe Alt is already that good. And the reality is, we know the Panthers have lack of talent. And with the culture set by Harbaugh, this might be the highest scoring game for the Chargers on offense this year.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And to your point about Joe Alt, look, if Joe Alt's already a fantastic pass blocker, and not that he's not a solid run blocker, but if he can get that run blocking up to full standard by the end of the year, Joe Alt, old lineman in consideration for a Rookie of the Year, I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Cleveland at Jacksonville. Jacksonville opens up as a 3-point favorite. We both have Jacksonville. I think this game, for me, Dobbs, was hard to pick because we know that the Jags fold in crunch time. But I went Deshaun Watson playing quarterback, Jags folding in crunch time. What do I think is worse? And it's Deshaun Watson sucking at quarterback the whole game. So my thing is, I think the Jags should be able to get to a point where they get in control of this lead, and then if they can just stop the offense on Cleveland, stop the run game, I think they win this game. I mean, the Jags defense is nothing to scoff at, and we know that their offense can score. They have playmakers right everywhere, and it's kind of almost embarrassing that they didn't put up more points versus Miami last week. With that being said, if they can just be consistent on offense, even if they're getting, end every drive with a kick, whether it's a punt or a field goal, right? Or a kickoff, right? No turnovers. As long as you don't turn over the ball to this Cleveland defense, and give them great field position, the Jacksonville should win this game.
No, and excuse me. That was my exact thought process here, Hunter. My thing is this too. I think this is what we need to heavily consider. Jack Conklin limited all week, questionable with a knee. So even if he's out there, we got a banged up Jack Conklin. David Njoku not playing. And then we also have Jedrick Wills not playing again. So we're one of our starting linemen out. One of our starting linemen, arguably our best one, questionable with not a good injury that you want to be going into the week with. And we already saw how the Browns O-line was looking. We saw how Deshaun Watson was looking. And like that was kind of the reality. I'm with you though. Look, it was hard to pick because of what we know about the Jags too. The Jags, we're talking about pedigree recently. Well, unfortunately, the Jags pedigree has been on the other side of the spectrum here, right? Where we're looking at the Jags pedigree and we're like, oh man, their pedigree is they're going to find a way to fold the game somehow. And look, I don't want it to be that way. It's the identity they've created for themselves, but they got to get over the hump. But I'm with you. I think, look, you pound the rock on this team. You don't turn the ball over. Yeah, right. We mix in the play action. We understand that we can go deep here and now. I think we say, yeah, it's going to be a close game because the reality is I do still think the Browns defense is going to be able to hold up enough, but I'm taking the Jags to edge this one 100%.
Yeah, it's Jacksonville, such a confusing team. Moving into the next game, we have Las Vegas at Baltimore. Baltimore opens up as an 2-point favorite. I mean, we both have Baltimore. It's not really that hard to decide. Let me ask you this question, Dobbs. Is there any chance the Raiders win this game?
Okay, I'll say this. I'm going to give the Raiders a chance purely on the fact that, and this is something, look, this is where Raiders fans are going to have hope. The Raiders D line is still a very good unit. And the Ravens O line is certainly not a good unit. So if you can be gap sound, that's our word of the week here. If we can have a gap sound scheme this week where, albeit, yeah, the pass rush, we got to be winning our pass rushes, but we got to be disciplined. We got to be staying in those lanes. If the Raiders can do that, marry it to good coverage, and then find a way to just churn that ball on the ground and win the time possession battle, yeah, honestly, Hunter, I do think the Raiders have a chance. But that is the recipe, and I don't think it's going to happen any other way. But it's on the table. But look, let me be clear, crystal clear. I am still fully going with the Ravens. I do think the Ravens are going to beat them. I do think -8 may be a little disrespectful this early in the season, honestly, with given how that Raiders D-line is. But I understand the point that, look, the Ravens are pissed. They lost by Isaiah Likely's big toe. They should come out swinging with uppercuts, and they should win this game. That is the bottom line.
So, yeah, if the Ravens want to win this game, they're really going to have to put it on the ground because the Raiders' defense actually isn't that bad when it comes to defending the pass. But when it comes to the run, they're in, I want to say, the bottom 20 or yeah, they're 21st in the league in stopping the run. So I do think if the Ravens are able to get, some rhythm established with maybe even Lamar in like an RPO read scheme or having Derrick Henry run the ball down their throat, I think they'll have a chance. I do think, though, I struggle a little bit with the physicality of the Ravens on offense. Don't they seem like they're a little bit more of a finesse team? And I understand with the types of players you have, why you might want to be that. But at the same time, you have Derrick Henry, run downhill. This is a downhill runner. And his usage in the first game was very, very questionable. And maybe they're just getting used to him or everything like that. But with that being said, I mean, I don't know. I think the Ravens defense is still pretty good. And if they're able to stop this Raiders offense, that I don't really see a way where the Raiders win this game unless they're able to force maybe 2 turnovers.
No, 100%, 100%. And I want to say this too, last thing on it, but look, uncharacteristically, even though, yeah, if you're looking at the score, you're not saying it was anything crazy, but from all 22 perspective, there's a lot of snaps where you're looking at that Ravens defense from week 1 and you're saying, oh man, that they're out of position uncharacteristically. I mean, I'm talking Marcus Williams, Kyle Hamilton, Roquan Smith had a really, really rough week. Really rough week. I think it's all that to say, I think they're going to bounce back from that. I think they're going to understand that we can do so much better than that. It's all right. It's all written that the Ravens should show up a much better team and win this game. But the recipe we did drop the little cookbook recipe for the Raiders to win.
Cookbook.
And that is no doubt that is the recipe.
Moving into our next game, we have the Los Angeles Rams versus the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona opens as a 1-point favorite. Pick them by Vegas. I'm going Arizona with the way they played Buffalo. And this injured-ass Rams team.
So
Arizona's going to win. Arizona is winning this game.
I like the energy. I do. And you know what, Hunter, let me be clear. And it's not because I don't like the Rams or anything. I'm going to be honest. Always honest, man. I'm rooting for the Cardinals game. I really am. I'm rooting for the Cardinals. I want to see them get that win. I want to see them start the season, right? I don't want to see another 0-2. The Cardinals fans are already losing hope. Or I don't want to see that for the Cardinals fans. But I think the reality is this, because again, I did go Rams on this one. And you know my logic on going with the Rams on this one, Hunter. We're on the same wavelength already, though, where it's right when you think that the Rams have no chance, that Stafford and McVay cook up a fucking steamer show and they shock you and they make you say, why did I doubt them? And I just don't want to fall victim to that again. But I don't blame you for your optimism in the Cardinals at all. And matter of fact, I could see the Cardinals come out and kind of punch him in the face to the point of where I'm looking like a fool for even considering the Rams with how injured that this team is, to your point. And that's the problem with this. If the Rams weren't such an injured roster, right, we would still be edging out the Rams without really thinking about it, despite how well the Cardinals played against the Bills, which now really does mean a lot considering that how well we saw the Bills played against the Dolphins. But, all that to say, look, I'm putting all of my chips into Stafford and McVay. And Stafford didn't have the best week one. He really didn't, right? He had some really nice throws in there, but compared to other QBs in the league, all 22, it wasn't the most amazing week. I think Stafford can bounce back. I think McVay's going to have the game plan ready. They're going to have a lot of stuff going horizontal this week. They're going to understand, okay, our line isn't necessarily ready to run downhill. Let's hit him with a lot of sweeps. Let's hit him with a lot of outside stuff. And you know what? If they can do that efficiently and keep that control at that time of the possession, I'm going to stick with the Rams on this one for those reasons.
Yeah, I think so. My thing is, I'm more concerned about the Rams defense because the Cardinals offense was top 15 in a lot of EPA stats on the offensive side, and I think we see veterans kind of in the back seven, but more kind of a mix of like rooks and vets on the D line. And I believe I saw Jonah Williams is actually going on IR right now, so. We could see a little bit of a hole in the Arizona offensive line, but just looking at this game, I don't know. While I do agree that I never want to count Stafford and McVay out because we know they can cook up whatever they want, I think this being a divisional game, obviously both teams want it, but I think Arizona wants this game bad. I think they're going to be flying all over the field. So that's why I got to go Arizona. I think, like we talked about this before the season a lot, this Arizona offense is so under-talked about, and they have the weapons. Imagine when Marvin Harrison Jr. gets going. Look what they did versus the Bills last week. More than what, and listen, obviously the Tua shit is unavoidable. But, even when Tua was in the game, the Cardinals offense did more than whatever the Dolphins did when Tua was in the game. So imagine without Marv. So imagine when Marv gets going. This offense is going to be electric.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm with you 100%. And again, this is one of the ones where I'm rooting against myself for this one. I'm rooting against my own pick. Cardinals fans, no, I'm rocking with you.
No bands, yeah. So these are all DraftKings odds. So DraftKings has the Cards -1. I think that has to do with a lot of injuries that the Rams are dealing with right now. A lot of offensive line injuries. Puka Nakua's out. So moving into our, go ahead.
Real quick, Hunter, I just want to add too. I almost forgot because I know you're gonna put your stamp of approval on this too. Because we got to mention it before it's a little, before it falls behind in the news cycle per se. But we just want to be clear because we'd have a chance to, right? Because the Buffalo Bills, Miami Dolphins already happened. Right here at YDKB, it's all prayers with Tua and his family.
Yeah.
Tua, take the time you need to figure it out. Please, don't rush back. Just Tua, we're praying for you. We care about you. We want to see the best for you. Consider your future. Consider everything on the table, and we're here for you, YDKB, always. This is it's so unfortunate what happened down there in Miami. So prayers for the Dolphins. Prayers for Tua.
Very, very unfortunate. Hopefully he is good. I was talking strictly football.
No, strictly ball. Yeah, strictly ball. That's why we had to just because we didn't have a chance to mention anything about it because they already played. So
moving into our next game, we have Pittsburgh at Denver. Pittsburgh is a 2.5-point favorite. Dobbs, what is the over/under on the offense scoring any points in this game?
Well, all right. If we're talking touchdowns, if we're like this, I'm glad you said that. If you're gonna make a parlay where you're throwing in field goal totals, yeah, this is the one. Specifically on the Steelers side again. Specifically on the Steelers side, because to your point there, Hunter, I really honestly struggle to see how the Broncos are going to really move the ball this week against the Steelers. I really do. And Sean Payton, yeah, like how we always say, Sean Payton will find a way to get some gimmicky fun stuff in there because he does. He's going to throw some crazy screens. He's going to have some stuff to get the Steelers' eye. He's going to have some eye candy, and they'll find a way to get it down there. But once it gets to the red zone or once it gets near the red zone, I don't think the Steelers' defense is playing any games with them. I don't think Bo Nix is dotting any windows. And it just comes from the fact that Bo Nix still has a lot of growth to do. The Broncos receiving corps still has a lot of growth to do as well. Steelers defense is ready, but then on the inverse of that, it's going to be kind of very similar from the other end. But I do think that I trust Justin's legs. I think that they're going to find a way to make enough offense that they're going to win this game. And even if it is just by Chris Boswell's leg again, I'm going to have to ride strictly on the Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, both are bottom 20 offenses in EPA per play. The Steelers are 20th and the Broncos are 29th. But when we go to EPA per play on defense, I want to say that the Steelers are 5th and the Broncos are 15th. So the Steelers are better in both categories. I was really on the fence, but I ended up going the Steelers. I think, I do think that Justin might have a better game this week. And I'll tell you what, if Justin starts the year 2-0, how do you go to Russ? Like, in reality, I think Bo Nix will have a better week, but it's going to be tough, obviously, against the Steelers defense. But if Fields starts 2-0, how do you take that job from him? I really believe they don't even want to start Russ. I think they want to see Fields as much as they can.
No, you're spot on, Hunter. This is just very good professional optics from Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, which is what we expect, right? We expect from a professional, very professional, pedigreed organization like the Steelers. And I think, yeah, they're just handling it the way that you'd handle it when you don't want to put shame to someone, but at the same time, the reality of the situation is that you're riding a hot hand and you want to try to give the young guy with much more potential a chance to ride out and give future immediately to your franchise and not have to look to the draft for the future of the QB necessarily. And again, let me be crystal clear. Am I sitting here saying that Justin is already the answer and that that's not what they're going to have to do? Absolutely not, because we know that Justin Fields still has a lot to prove, and there's nobody that would disagree with that is not a complete JF1 fanboy, as we know that does exist. And we do know that the JF1 fanboys exist. But credit where it's due. He threw the ball incredibly well outside the numbers week 1. It was very, very impressive. And if he can do that again, just keep the turnovers, right? Mitigate the turnovers and keep those legs turning. JF1 should be the QB in Pittsburgh, and that's the bottom line.
Moving into our next game, we have Cincinnati at KC. KC opens as 6-point favorites. I'm honestly surprised this game didn't open up any bigger with a bigger line. We both have KC, and this was one of the – it's weird because we've always looked forward to this matchup in the past, but I don't think it was an easier pick this week. I really don't think there was an easier pick.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. But again, if anyone in chat right now has watched the Bengals video that we did recently about, Joe Burrow, you understand where we're coming from. Look, nobody, not nobody, because now it's starting to pick up. I think we were a little ahead of the curve, Hunter. Get a little clap for us. I think we're a little ahead of the curve. But now everyone's starting to talk about it. The reality with Joe Burrow's injury is that this is not something that is going to go away fast. It is not something necessarily that is ever going to go away, which is really concerning. And it is very serious. This is not something that, he is, the way he is going to have to throw the ball the rest of his career is going to be altered. And when you're making a change like that to something that you've been doing for so long, well, it's only just pure logic that the results are going to be at least jarring initially when you're making the change. And against a team like the Chiefs, with the pedigree that they have, Steve Spagnuolo that knows this Bengals offense so well, and call it for what it is too. The Bengals O-line didn't play anywhere near fantastic ball week 1. Chiefs D-line is going to be ready to come for these boys as far as I see it. And on the inverse of that, look, the Bengals D-line really did not look good at all week 1. All those reasons, me and my trenches, Hunter. I think the Chiefs are going to dominate the trenches. They're going to win the pressure battle, and they're just a better roster right now.
No, they really didn't start off the season, I guess, the same or have the same kind of storylines. But know what this team reminds me of? Kind of the Eagles from last year, where it just seems like there's a lot of stuff going on internally, and it's kind of affecting the team. Is Zach Taylor the guy? They start out slow every year, right? They have the issues kind of with the receiver. And, even though they had a good record last year, it was kind of this was behind backups, which is impressive. But it's even if the Bengals have a good record this year, are we going to feel good about their future? Or are we going to go into next season and this is all speculative storyline shit, but like, are we going to go into next season saying, well, they got to figure it out this year because last year just didn't feel right? That's how the Eagles feel this year, and it's kind of a similar vibe to me.
No, Hunter, I loved that. That was great right there because I really didn't. I've never even thought about that, but I think you're spot on. It was great analysis, and there's no better way to say it. I mean that is the reality of the situation. And again, if we're looking at it, last thing I'll add is if we're looking at it on just right pure all 22. If we're talking just film, the only guy last week that was really holding his own and playing really good ball was only, and I mean only, Logan Wilson. Jamar Chase, good week, but still not Jamar we want to see. And yes, that comes from the fact that he's not paid and we need to see up the snap totals agree. Yeah, all that. But the guys that you really expected, and you know what? Creditors do. I'm going to give credit. Cordell Volson, good week. Good week, honestly. Cordell Volson, good week. So you really had two guys that were holding their own for a roster that's supposed to be Super Bowl competitors. Can't have that. Cannot have that if you're Cincy.
Moving into our Sunday night game, we have the Chicago Bears at the Houston Texans. Houston opens up at a 6.5-point favorite. Dobbs, who are you taking here?
All right, Hunter. For this game, I'm going to surprise everybody. You know what? But I got my reason ready. I'm taking the Bears on this one. And I'm taking the Bears for the reasons as follows. And let me be crystal clear, hand up. I understand that this is likely not going to go in my favor. I completely do. I completely understand that the Texans should win this game. But why that I have faith that the Bears can pull this out is I think, you're the Bears and you're hearing fluky week 1. They shouldn't have won that game. But then if you're the Bears, you're like, okay, but wait, Caleb did not play anywhere near to what we expect him, and nor did he play to where he expects. And I think that Caleb is going to be able to make a big jump every single week because we know the talent Caleb Williams has. This Bears receiving core also didn't play up to standard. I think this Bears receiving core is going to be coming out hungry, ready to show that we are that receiving core that everybody thought we were. I think they're going to be ready to come out and have a much better week on offense. Now, tie that to what we already know about this defense. And I don't know if everybody was really on board yet, if everybody's aware, Hunter, of how dominant this Bears defense looks to be this year.
Second to the
but
Saints.
This Bears defense is looking like, and I'm going to look, it's not the same because the pass rush back in 2018, right? That was a special unit, right? That was a special unit.
But the secondary might be better.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say. Next is, look, that secondary and that linebacking core, infinitely better. And I'm sorry, I'm going to say infinitely better, actually. It's insane. Not that Trevathan, that's the point. That was a great unit, but this unit here, right, that you guys have now is just loaded outside of the D-line. And even with that, the D-line is playing good ball. Andrew Billings playing fantastic, right? That's crazy because I didn't expect to say that. But Andrew Billings holding things down, everybody else has to do their job. Look, the Bears can win this game. And again, this is one of those ones where I'm leaning more into faith, but I understand that the Texans should win it, but I'm going Bears. Something told me Bears this week, Hunter.
Andrew Billings might be, one of the most underrated players in the NFL, honestly. I'm going Texans, and while I would like to see the Bears win this game, after a shaky week 1 for Caleb, you're throwing him on Sunday night versus the Texans versus the quarterback the Bears should have taken. I don't give a fuck what he says. I don't get nervous, bro. You're nervous for this game. This is a big game for your career. Second game in the NFL, and you're on the national spotlight. Obviously, if you're built for it, you're built for it. And I do think he could have one of those games where he just kind of lights it up, right? I really do. I think he might thrive under the pressure, right? I think they looked at the Titans. I think the Bears holistically look at every team the same. But I think Caleb probably looked at the Titans maybe and was like, okay, this is week 1. Like, it shouldn't be that bad. But it was that bad, right? Like, that's the reality. And I think he might look at this game in more of like okay, we need to ball out for real. Like, we need to go crazy. So I do have hope that the Bears could win this game, but I just think the Texans are a more put together unit at this point, especially with the pass rush. Now, I am a little bit, I do feel a little bit better about the interior pressure that's going to be allowed by the Bears. I think they'll do a better job. Obviously, they don't have a Jeffrey Simmons or T'Vondre Sweat, but I still think, Caleb will be under pressure a little bit. Keenan should be good to go. I think Rome might be out this week. So it's going to be an interesting week. I think for the most part, the Bears and Texans are kind of built kind of similar. I just think, where the Texans thrive in the defensive pass rush, the Bears thrive in the secondary. So it's kind of like a little bit of switch up on defense, but I do think these teams are pretty similar.
No, absolutely. Hunter, I want to add one thing before we move on to our final game of the week here, because this, we always like to we always like to get ahead here at YDKB, and I'm going to get ahead on this one. If the Bears offense doesn't figure it out this year, and if Caleb does not get close to the ceiling we know that he can hit, here's what I'm going to say far in advance because it's already very glaring to me on the all 22. Glaring, glaring, glaring. Shane Waldron has got to step up. The
Yeah.
play calling was not it week one. And if the season doesn't work, you got to make the swap to a West Coast offense. You have to get a West Coast offensive coordinator in the building immediately next year. I'm getting ahead of the curve on that one, but let's move on. Let's move on here.
It's funny you say that, and I'll move on right after this. I was watching the Nate Tice 301 football podcast, and he made a point about Shane Waldron being on Fraud Watch because there was like little details that like, you want a small body on a small body, big body on big body, and he would have like a wide receiver going to block a linebacker and a tight end going to block the safety. It's like those little things, like they probably should, the wide receiver should go get the safety and things like that. So,
Well, and even just the play calling on thirds and shorts, first like right, second and long. A lot of the decision making I just don't subscribe to in terms of philosophy. But this is something we're gonna have to address going forward because he has plenty of weeks to redeem himself.
ooh, my bad. Moving into our last game, we have Atlanta at Philly. Philly opens as a 6.5-point favorite. We both have Philly. I mean, Atlanta looked like shit week one. And I mean, the Eagles are a way more talented team. I don't really know if there's much to discuss on this game. I think this game is going to be less about wins and losses and more about if the Atlanta offense can put it together.
No, absolutely. And I think that this is really what I have to add on this, where and Eagles fans, look, I don't know if they're going to necessarily agree because I don't think that he should be as low as he is. But you're going to get what I'm saying either way. Jalen Hurts was actually the lowest graded quarterback in the entire league week one with a 29.8 grade via PFF. Now, but why I'm saying that is because we know Jalen Hurts is capable of playing much better football, and I do think he's going to play a much better football this week against the Falcons. And albeit that he didn't play that well, right? The Eagles' offense still played really good, and the Eagles' offense still had plenty of explosive plays. So, from the perspective of that, they can play so much better, and that the O-line already was playing like a top 3 unit. There's no way that I think that I'm going to sit here and say that the Eagles are not going to be able to run the ball really well again. That Jalen Hurts is not going to play better football. And the reality is just like you said, it's bottom line stuff, Hunter. They are a far better roster than the Falcons, and they're playing at their home stadium for the first time this year. You know it is going to be rocking.
In the
You know it
lake,
is going
stadium
to be
pulse up in the corner.
No, like it's Stadium Pulse right up in the corner. It's Stadium Pulse on steroids in the corner. I mean, those Eagles fans are going to be going ballistic. They're ready. They're pissed. And if you're the Falcons and you're Kirk Cousins, who again, like we've already pointed out, the footwork in the pocket not what it used to be, the arm talent already looking shaky compared to what we know Kirk Cousins had before. I think this Eagles defense is going to be ready to pounce. That pass rush. Jalen Carter had a really bad first week. I think Jalen Carter is going to come pissed, ready to show that, no, I'm not right. I'm not falling off. I am Jalen Carter. I am one of the best D linemen in the league. This Eagles D line is going to come pissed. The O line is already pissed. They win both trench battles. And Hunter, you know how I feel about the trenches. This is a pure trench warfare dominant game, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's going to be something. I don't really have much else to say on this game. I mean, I really think that it's going to be Philly all the way. And, Atlanta, I just need to see something from that offense because if we don't, it's going to start to be a little bit concerning. But any last thoughts, Dobbs?
Last thoughts. We definitely got a fun slate of football ahead of us here, Hunter.
Yes.
And there's definitely going to be a lot of questions. A lot of questions we have will be answered now that it's not just going to be a one-game sample size anymore.
I like this week's slate of games much better than week one. Honestly.
Oh, I can definitely second that.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Kept our promise. We're getting you right out before the start of college football. Alabama, Wisconsin. If you think that'll be a game, go watch it. Thank you guys so much for watching. We're going to be live every Saturday around 10 a.m. Central Time doing our weekly game picks. If you don't know ball, want to know ball, be sure to subscribe, leave a like. Let us know in the comments the biggest trap game for the week. Enjoy college football today. Enjoy the NFL tomorrow. And Dobbs, what do you want to say?
I would say, might I add two things here real quick, Hunter. Don't forget that LSU South Carolina game. Don't sleep on it. Don't sleep on my LSU boys. Don't sleep on tuning in on my LSU boys.
LSU in South Carolina.
If Wisconsin and Bama ends up being sleeper, and also might I add, most importantly, we appreciate every single one of you guys that's in here, everyone that stuck around, everyone that tuned in, even for a couple seconds. We appreciate y'all. And you guys have a great rest of your weekend.
Lenore Seller breakout game.